Well, welcome everyone. This is our first virtual accepted students orientation information session for the physics and astronomy program. So this is a first. We'll see how many there are after this one. My name is Dr. Stacy Nunes. I'm the chair or head of the physics and astronomy department. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about what we have in mind for you so you know what is coming. So we're going to begin by introducing those of us who are here, are going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll introduce you to some members of the department who are not present. And then I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the majors that are available through the department. And being a physicist, I'll tell you a little bit about the physics programs. And then Dr. Amy Bartholomew, who's the director of the astronomy program, will tell you about the astronomy programs and some of the facilities that are available for students of astronomy. And then Dr. Catherine Hearn will talk about research opportunities and the kinds of things that students can get up to in and out of the classroom in addition to studying their textbooks. After that, we have one or two of our current undergraduates here. So we're going to have them introduce themselves to you, and then we'll open it up for questions. But in the meantime, as we talk to you, please do put any questions that you have into the chat so that by the time we get to questions, you haven't forgotten them, and we can make sure that we don't miss anything. Okay, so as I said, my name is Stacy Nunes, and my background is in physics. I have been the chair of the department for 12 years, and my interests over the years have been in molecular physics and in programming to help students to succeed in STEM majors. So I think you all know what STEM is, but just in case, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As far as teaching, I have taught a number of courses over the years, but lately I've been sticking mainly with the introductory physics course on electricity and magnetism and two upper division courses in classical mechanics where we analyze motion. So that is me, and I'm going to pass the baton to Dr. Bartholomew.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Amy Bartholomew, and my background is in astronomy, and I am the program director for astronomy. So I'm the person that you'll direct any astronomy-related questions to. And if you choose to come here, I will be your advisor as well for the astronomy major side of things. So my background is in the motions of stars and galaxies and how it allows us to determine where dark matter is distributed in galaxies. That's what my PhD work was in. Nowadays, I focus more on education of astronomy, less so on the research side of things, although I do still do research projects with our undergraduate students who are interested in astronomy. So I teach the general education level astronomy classes, and I teach all but one of the upper level astronomy elective classes. So you will see a lot of me if you come here for the astronomy major. And then go ahead, Dr. Hearn, and then I'll show the rest of the department.
Okay, I'm Dr. Catherine Hearn. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and there's so much I could say about myself. No, I'm going to follow their lead. So my background is in physics, and in particular, my PhD was in a program that was applied physics at the University of Michigan. And that usually meant that it was going to be focused on something experimental and basically applications of physics, exactly like it sounds. I worked with lasers, and I got really into lasers in grad school. I didn't know anything about them beforehand, and learned about cool, fancy stuff to do in grad school, kept doing some laser work, and now I do research in optical tweezers, which is using lasers to trap and manipulate small things. And basically we investigate kind of a few different things and I'm going to show you a little bit more about that later. I am involved with other things on campus before I get to my teaching. I do workshops with the LGBTQ Allies program at New Paltz. I've been on the organizing committee for Black Lives Matter in STEM, and also focusing on teaching and education on campus, similarly to Dr. Bartholomew. And I teach introductory physics and optics, of course, because that has to do with lasers, and our advanced lab courses, which I'll tell you more about. So more of the experimental things. I got to keep making things, which is what I like to do when I was younger. I get to keep making things now. I think that's it for me.
Cool. So we also wanted to show you the other faculty members who are unable to be here today. And so I put together just this picture of the other full-time members of our department. So, and the other, Dr. Hearn and Dr. Nunes, feel free to jump in if you would like to add something. So Dr. Richard Halpern is all of these people are physics. Well, no, that's not true. So Dr. Halpern is a physicist. He teaches some of the introductory level classes and also some upper level classes. He's teaching a course in nonlinear dynamics right now. And he, I think, kind of just teaches whatever. He's open to everything. Yeah. So Raj Pandya here is our Planetarium Director. You will see him in a video a little bit later that he put together about the planetarium on campus. So he is our other astronomer. He teaches mostly the general education level courses, as well as the planetarium operation course and some physics lab courses. Taran Biswas is another physics faculty member. His research interests are in theoretical physics. I think he's interested largely in weird things like black holes and quantum physics, general relativity, that kind of thing. He teaches the modern physics class. I thought he taught quantum, but I think someone else teaching it.
Did Dr. Halpern and Dr. Biswas sort of trade that one off,
Okay.
on and off?
And then lastly, we have Dr. Eric Myers. He is our actually instructional support technician. So he is really in charge of all of the physical equipment and most of the physical space of our department. He has a background sort of at the intersection between physics and astronomy, doing gravitational waves and particle physics kind of things. And he has extensively taught, as well as being the support tech. He also teaches every semester. And if you do a hands-on research project for your senior project, then you might find yourself working with him on the mechanical, physical side of things. So I've also included on the bottom here the website for our directory. At that website, you will find contact information for all of us, including our photos, except for Dr. Myers. I had to go find his elsewhere. And so if you forget who we are, then our faces are there too, so that you can remember, hopefully, that will help you figure out who to contact. So that's our department. We are a pretty small department. And so you're getting to know most of us, or half of us anyway.
Okay, so my turn. Let me tell you about the majors that are available through the Department of Physics and Astronomy. So we have a Bachelor of Sciences or Bachelor of Arts in Physics that are really quite interchangeable. And that's a major that students take that can lead to entry-level work in industry. It can lead to graduate school in physics, or it can lead to a place on Wall Street, depending on physics is about problem solving, and problem solving comes up in pretty much everything that you do in life. We have a Bachelor of Arts in Astronomy, and I'm going to leave that for Dr. Bartholomew to speak more about in a little while. And we have what's called a Bachelor of Sciences in Education with a concentration in physics. So this is an undergraduate degree whose for students who would like to be certified, at least provisionally, to teach high school in physics when they graduate. So the physics major consists of, we have a sort of an introductory seminar that both physics and astronomy majors can take that helps new students to get to know each other and the department, and then to start to develop some of the skills that they're going to need as time goes on, and explore careers. I mean, very often students are interested in physics, not really sure where that's going to take them, and this course helps you to explore some of those careers that might be possible. So then we have really, you know, the standard 2-semester introductory calculus-based physics in mechanics and electricity and magnetism, and then a number of upper division courses in different topics, from mechanics to electricity and magnetism to optics to quantum. You've heard about those already, thermal physics, and so on. I'm particularly proud of our new integrated laboratory program that begins, and you'll hear more about this from Dr. Hearn, but it begins with the freshman experience of laboratories in the introductory courses, and then grows as time goes on. You'll take an optics laboratory that goes along with optics at an intermediate level, and then the sort of the final experience, which is actually a classroom experience, is our advanced laboratory. Professor Hearn mentioned that before, and we'll talk a little more about those later. All of the physics majors do a senior design project in their senior year, and that's an independent project that can be experimental, it can be a piece of theoretical work, and you work individually with a faculty member to accomplish that. So the difference for the Bachelor of Science in Education is that those students take slightly fewer upper division electives, and they also, instead of doing a senior project, they student teach in their final semester. Okay, I'm gonna pass this over to you, Amy.
All right, so I'm going to tell you a bit about our astronomy program. Our astronomy major is a Bachelor of Arts degree, as Dr. Nunes said. That is because it was originally conceptualized and designed to be the equivalent of like a liberal arts kind of a version of a science degree. And so what that means is it has slightly less math requirement than, say, the physics degree would. It only requires calculus 1 and 2. Whereas physics requires courses beyond that. And it also is fewer credits than a typical science degree would be. And so for that reason, it is very possible to double major in astronomy and another major. And in fact, I encourage my astronomy majors to at least minor in something else, if not double major in things. Now, if you know that you want to be a research astronomer or a professional astronomer, go to graduate school in astronomy, then we highly recommend that you double major in astronomy and physics. And if you do that, then you will have the preparation that you need to go to graduate school. Most of our astronomy majors do double major in physics. Some other majors that students do are math, geology for like the planetary science side of things, environmental geochemistry we have now, biology, and then we occasionally have people who double major in like music or something like that, something totally different. So our curriculum consists of the introductory classes, the 2-semester 1-year sequence in physics and astronomy and chemistry. And then you have upper level classes in physics and astronomy. So on the physics side, you have mechanics and modern physics and lab physics, which could be either of the ones that Dr. Nunes just described. And then on the astronomy side of things, you would take observational astronomy, galaxies and cosmology, extraterrestrial life, and planetarium operation. So to give you a sense of the size of the program, we currently have 34 declared majors and 11 minors. There's a caveat to that, which is that students are not required to actually declare their major until their sophomore year. So there probably are more than that just haven't officially declared, especially since everything's been weird this year and we're virtual and all that kind of stuff. But it is, like I said, a fairly small program. The class sizes are small. My astronomy majors courses are between 12 and the big ones are 20, 23, something like that. The small ones are 12, 15 students. That's in the upper level stuff. But even in the intro level, it's not ridiculously out of control. We know all of our students, the students know each other, the students know us. That's a good thing. I guess sometimes it might sound scary, but it's good that we get to know each other. Now, I want to point out one more thing about our astronomy program, which is that we have two very unique resources on campus here for our astronomy majors, or students in general, really. We have a planetarium and an observatory. We teach classes in how to operate both of those facilities. And after students take those classes, then you are welcome to get your hands on those things. Students get jobs working, giving shows in the planetarium, and you can do research at the observatory, or also help with doing public shows at the observatory as well. So I have two videos to show you about each of these resources. Dr. Nunes, this is the right time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will begin, I guess, by showing you the observatory. Now, I made this video, so be nice. I was pretty proud of it. Here we go. Oh, this is the planetarium. Well, we'll watch this one anyway.
Welcome to the John R. Kirk Planetarium at SUNY New Paltz. I'm Raj Pandya, Director of the Planetarium and lecturer in the Department of Physics and Astronomy.
Amy, I'm
The
seeing the
planetarium is an
observatory.
indoor domed theater.
Wait, you're seeing the observatory?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Try again. I did share the right one. It just popped up the wrong one on my computer. All right, thank you. Welcome to the Smallin Observatory at the State University of New York at New Paltz. Jack Smallin started grinding the mirror for his telescope on his kitchen table in New York City. He later constructed the telescope's optics and iron framework at the American Museum Hayden Planetarium. After realizing that New York City was not an ideal place for night sky viewing, he and his wife Muriel moved to the countryside of Hurley, New York, where they constructed an observatory, complete with a library and domed roof. After 25 years of work, the Eagle's Nest Observatory was completed in 1963. Mr. and Mrs. Smallin generously made Eagle's Nest Observatory available to the New Paltz community and hosted students, faculty, and staff there for many years. In 1980, Mr. Smallin said that his intention was to bring as many young people here as I can to show them the beauty and the mystery of the planets and of the nebulae and the galaxies. A bequest from the Smallins has enabled us to build an on-campus observatory that houses his original telescope. The observatory dedication took place in 2010. Smallin Observatory houses a 14-inch Celestron Schmidt reflecting telescope on a Paramount mount. The observatory also houses Mr. Smollin's 10-inch telescope, seen here on the left, and several smaller 8-inch Dobsonian telescopes, seen on the right. The roof of the observatory slides open to allow a view of the sky. A mechanical pier allows us to raise and lower the telescope. portable telescopes are moved onto the side patios for additional night sky viewing. The 14-inch telescope is controlled by a computer housed in the observatory. In addition, we use a research-grade CCD camera with this telescope to take images of astronomical objects. Smallin Observatory is used by astronomy majors in our observational astronomy course, in which students learn basic observing techniques and advanced data analysis of images. Students may also choose to use the observatory to complete independent research projects. The entire campus community, as well as the local public community, come to the observatory for regular public telescope viewings and special events such as eclipses, conjunctions, and comets. Smallin Observatory is a valuable resource for the SUNY New Paltz community. All right, so that is the observatory. And now you get to see what you were hearing before about the planetarium. Let me restart it actually, because it got a little bit into it. Okay. So now this is our Planetarium Director, Raj, talking about the planetarium.
Welcome to the John R. Kirk Planetarium at SUNY New Paltz. I'm Raj Pandya, Director of the Planetarium and lecturer in the Department of Physics and Astronomy. The planetarium is an indoor domed theater that can seat up to 43 people. The space is used to accurately project the properties and motions of the sky onto the dome overhead. It is used for astronomy education of our students and the general public. The planetarium's projection system was recently upgraded with the installation of a fisheye lens projector that can display digital simulations of the sky and mimic celestial motions. It allows the audience to see and zoom in on images of stars, constellations, planets, galaxies, and other deep sky objects. It also allows the audience to view the sky as seen from different planets and moons, and has many other features. The original Spitz Space Systems A3P projector is still in use and can display the stars and planets of any season, as seen from any latitude in either their current position or those of the deep past or far future. We host bi-monthly planetarium shows for the regional audience and field trips for K-12 schools. New Paltz students majoring or minoring in astronomy can take a course in planetarium operation and work part-time presenting their own shows in the planetarium. Students will learn how to use the Spitz A3P optomechanical star projector and our updated digital projector. For more information, please visit our website at newpaltz.edu/planetarium, where you'll find free virtual planetarium shows. You can sign up to our email list by sending an email to observatory-events-subscribe@newpaltz.edu. Thank you, and I hope to see you at an upcoming planetarium show in the future.
All right, and actually we have some of our current students here who do planetarium shows and who are using the observatory as well, actually, so they can speak to that as well. I did want to talk briefly about what physics and astronomy majors do after they graduate. Usually we have parents with us, and that's the first question that parents ask us is, what kind of job is my child going to get after they graduate from your program? So although I don't know if any of your parents are listening in now, you might also have the same question. So as Dr. Noon says, I teach, well, there's this physics seminar class that we teach to let students know about the kinds of career choices there are, and I typically teach that class, and so I know the statistics and all that, so I won't bore you with everything, but I'll just tell you what students typically do after they graduate. These numbers mostly are with a physics degree, but it's pretty much the same for astronomy. So right after getting a physics bachelor's degree, about 30 to 35%, so a third of students go on to graduate study in physics or astronomy. I found an interesting number that about 1 in 6 physics bachelor degree recipients end up with a PhD. And then another 20% go on to graduate school in other things, largely engineering, but then also other things. So that's about half of students going to graduate school. Then the other half go into the workforce, which about 2/3 of that is the private sector. And that would be things like engineering, computer or information systems, other sciences, or other non-science kinds of things. And then besides the private sector, you might find a job at a government or national lab, a college or university, a high school teacher, as Dr. Noon said, and then there's some fraction that go to active military kinds of positions. So some of the other categories, things that you might end up doing that you would be well prepared for, but is maybe not necessarily being a physicist or astronomer, would be things like data science, business, being an analyst, for example, a technical writer, science policy, patent law, and then particularly in astronomy, there are outreach kind of positions like at museums, planetariums, science writing, or observatory support staff sorts of things. Now on the astronomy side, if you want to be an astronomer, you almost definitely will end up working either at a university or for the federal government. Those are the main places to be a research astronomer. And so yeah, that is what you might hope for in the future if you decide that you would like to come here and major in physics and astronomy. So now I believe I'm turning it over to Dr. Hearn to talk about research and labs.
That was such a great overview of both physics and astronomy. And I feel like I'm going to be like the I don't know, it's a little scrappy, definitely scrappy. But what I thought maybe we could do is a quick show of hands of our participants. We often do this in class. You can find the raise hand feature. I'm sure you've all heard this like 5,000 times in every Zoom session. You can find the raise hand feature under reactions, at least, and potentially other places as well. It's on the bottom of the screen. So who is interested in a physics major? You may be interested in both, so you can raise your hand more than once. Who would be interested in a physics major? And see the raise hand feature. Awesome. I like the thumbs up. That's like even better. So, and Cole, I don't think you count, honestly, but who's interested in an astronomy major? And you may raise your hand again. Great. And as Dr. Bartholomew pointed out, the many astronomy majors also major in physics because you realize physics is the way to go. And so you just kind of do both. No, because it's a great way to have a rounded and rigorous program. So cool. And I also want to just take a quick moment because we've been telling you a bunch of things. And as I said, I've got the scrappy side of things to talk about, but I want to take a quick moment and just invite anyone to put in the chat or to raise your hand if you have any questions that you want to make sure are answered by us today. So we don't take all the time and not answer your questions. So are there any questions out there now?
I'm glad you had them raise their hands. I was thinking the same thing. Usually we do that. And I was wondering, does anyone care that I'm talking about astronomy?
Apparently a lot of people do. Yeah. Okay. So it's been promised that I'm going to tell you about like the experimental side of things. And pretty much, I mean, physics is applying math to, and I probably shouldn't have said that as the first word, but physics is applying concepts to learn things about everything around us. And it's I like to say it's more than just balls rolling down hills, because often in our physics classes, we roll balls down hills and learn some interesting things about them.
My husband is a geology professor and he teases me all the time that that's all we do. But then I say he just hits rocks with a hammer, so we're even.
Right. That's, yeah. So, and I just shine lasers at things. But yeah, so physics is more than that. And that's part of what the advanced lab and the optics lab sequence are about. That when you actually get to try to do something and answer a question, learn something. I'm looking down at a table. Can you tell? I'm like looking at the equipment. Try to learn something about optics, which we'll see a little bit about, and also about other kind of principles. So our advanced lab, which my video does not talk about, covers some quantum mechanics pretty extensively. And you've probably heard of quantum mechanics, but it's pretty neat to be able to do experiments using that illustrate properties and principles of quantum mechanics. And so that's kind of a highlight. So I'm going to show a really short, I'm embarrassed now, like, because what I wanted to highlight was students. And so I have students sort of standing awkwardly in lab being like, this is a piece of equipment. So that's what you're going to see with a really short intro.
I would have had students, but it's dark when they're there. You can't see them.
Yeah, whatever. It's a good excuse. And I have mostly captioned because the students are a little bit hard to hear. So I'll come back to you in a moment. Okay. The optics lab is the laboratory course in our curriculum. In this course, students start working with experiments that are a little bit more complicated than in the introductory physics sequence. So they use research quality optics equipment involving setting things up, using lasers, learning to align lasers, and experimenting with things with lenses, with mirrors, with types of laser beams, polarizers, a lot of things that are unfamiliar until taking the optics course in the lab. It's all something that's where students need to work together in groups to figure things out with guidance from the instructor, of course. And it's often kind of frustrating to get through the first level of understanding, but then that moment of breakthrough is pretty fun. The following are short clips showing what students in optics lab look like this semester.
Particular to the way they are right now for the lens. Just like completely the lens to turn so 90 degrees. So because these are going to have to get close, right? They're going to have to be closer.
Oh, I got what you're saying. Yeah.
So not that.
Physics majors have the opportunity to get involved in research in physics, and astronomy majors have some potential to do research in astronomy. One possibility for research in physics is to work with the optical micromanipulation group, which is my group, that uses optical tweezers to investigate properties of matter. So students can come to my research group from all levels. We have things that you can get involved with from very basic, not even understanding what a laser is, up to having taken optics and advanced lab and being able to do things that are a little bit more complex. We'll just show you a couple of things that we're doing right now. One of the things that we've been studying for a couple of years is calcite crystals and the interaction of light with these crystals, which is helping us to understand the interactions between scattering force and rotational torques on these particular types of crystals. What you're seeing is a really tiny piece of material. It's actually only about 10 microns on a side, and it's rotating because a laser beam is shining on it in a particular way. What students are doing this semester is investigating the effect of light, the effect on the light as it passes through those crystals. So some of the data they've taken so far is to look at light that is polarized in a particular way. What you'll hear now is students talking about this polarimetry project and as they're in the lab doing some work.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm a physics and astronomy major.
And my name is Cameron. I'm a double major, physics and astronomy. Right now we're just working on a project with the goal of trying to build our understanding of optical trapping, polarimetry, and understanding the profile of torque and polarization as light is passed through a crystal that's optically trapped. And right now we're just working on alignment, trying to get our trapping beam and our beam that we're going to use for imaging overlapped with each other so that we can view it on our camera.
The second project we're working on right now has to do with bacteria, in particular a predatory bacteria called Delovibria bacteriovorus. This short video will show you some E. coli, which is the large kind of shaped, sausage-shaped objects, and some Delovibria bacteriovorus, which are the smaller ones. And this is just an early video students took of the bacteria in an optical trap. So where the laser is where they're all clustered. We can also trap just one at a time. And then they're kind of moving around due to what's called Brownian motion, and we work on trapping them. The students will tell you now a little bit about what they're doing as they're in the lab. So what are you looking at in the trap right now?
That's the top edge, top surface.
And what are we trapping?
I'm trapping the Delovibrio bacteriovorus.
Cool. And could you just say your names for us?
Aiden Brophy.
I'm Max Hartman.
All right, thanks. So as I said, quick and dirty. Any questions about that? I'll say a few more things about doing research and what that means, but again, just giving you a pause. I'm sure you understood all of those words, especially the ones that were like sausage-shaped E. coli.
I was wondering if that was the technical term.
I think I might have added the sausage part. Delovibrio is talked about as being like kidney bean shaped, but it's a little bit, or a comma shaped.
I wanted to point out in all of these videos that you've shown, those are all undergraduate students. We do not have graduate students in our program, and not very many at New Paltz in general. And so undergraduate students are the ones getting their hands on all of this equipment, everything that we showed you.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a big thing that the advanced lab sequence and the research, hands-on research is really about is, I mean, this research is helping me work towards my goals, short-term and long-term goals. And the reason I say helping me is because I have the opportunity as a professor to publish research and, you know, continue to investigate new things that I find interesting and people in the scientific community. So I involve students in that work as we go along, and it changes a little bit over time. The lab courses are really geared towards students doing the work themselves, which again, as I said in the video, can be pretty frustrating. I'm in the middle of optics lab right now, and so students are experiencing that frustration. Cole, you can nod your head with that. And David has been there. Advanced lab, again, just goes into more, it's more writing intensive. You learn to write scientific papers, which is one of the first things you're going to have to do, or maybe not the very first thing, but it's something you're going to have to do as you move forward in your career. So I can keep saying more, but I also want to open it up to our students now. And we have Cole and David. Is that kind of where we're at this point? Great. So Stacy, do you want to unmute yourself and introduce them?
You're still muted.
Or we can just do that. Yeah. No, we can tell you.
I mean, you could have just gone on and introduced them.
You're right. I didn't know where we were in our guide. Well, take it away.
Well, in fact, I'm hoping that they're going to introduce themselves. So shall we start with you, Cole?
Sure. I'm Cole. I'm a senior here at SUNY New Paltz. Physics and astronomy. I'm also minoring in applied math. Is there any good? Okay. David.
Yeah, hello. I'm David Meir. I have a dual major in physics and astronomy. I have minors in history and geography, basically for fun. I'm also the president of the Society of Physics Students, which in practice is basically just the physics club. I'm also very active in the planetarium. So if you want to ask any questions about either of those, I'm happy to answer.
Great, thank you. So I guess we should also, have we mentioned that there is an astronomy club as well?
We have not mentioned that.
Yeah, so we may want to.
Are either of you folks officers in the astronomy club, or can you talk about it?
Last semester we both were, but Cosmic Club, a lot of clubs have suffered because of COVID, and Cosmic Club is one of those. Once things kind of go back to normal, I imagine it will pick back up, but at the moment there's not much of a Cosmic Club to speak of.
Well, but so they generally met in the planetarium, right? So that would be part of the problem. And yeah, or at the observatory.
Yeah. Okay, so now is the time for questions, and feel free to put them in the chat, or probably a better idea to raise your hand to go rather than just jumping in, since there seem to be so many questions. You can address them to any one of us in particular, or just throw them out and see who is feels they'd like to answer.
So somebody has asked what internships or research opportunities are available. You want to take that, Catherine?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, and then Amy, maybe you can bounce off. And students also, actually, Dave and Cole, you've both looked into things. So right away, research opportunities, as I said, working with me is something that you can do pretty much out of the gate, depending on your time. Often students don't have time in their schedules. I like it if students have managed to take, or have taken General Physics 1, perhaps. And so research with me is one option. Also, what other research during the semester? That's a big one. Research over the summer, there's, I also do summer research. Dr. Bartholomew sometimes does summer research programs depending on her availability. And there are a lot of summer internships that students can apply for. Cole and David, can you say something about summer internships?
Bullshit, he got into one.
Oh, let's hear about that.
Oh boy, well, it's not too exciting. Yeah, so I got an internship at the College of Worcester in Ohio. Unfortunately, with COVID, it hasn't happened yet. But I'm not totally sure everything was exactly what it's gonna involve, but basically it's called an REU, Research Experience for Undergrad. And there's most colleges, I say most, a lot of colleges have these research internships over the summer. They're paid positions, and basically you go to the campus for like 10 weeks and you work with a physics like mentor basically, and you help them with their research. That's kind of my understanding of it. Again, the one that I was accepted into is in Ohio. Really looking forward to the experience.
So in the physics seminar class that I teach usually people take in their first semester, I do spend a class day showing you some of these various external research opportunities, and I work with you to help you write a personal statement to help you apply to some of them. I do also want to mention though that there are a few research funding opportunities at New Paltz. There are programs called the Summer Undergraduate Research Experience and the Academic Year Undergraduate Research Experience. The dean may have talked about that. Did you do that, David?
David, yeah. You want to take that?
Yeah, so after my sophomore and my second sophomore summer, I wanted to do research, and Dr. Hearn picked me up, and I was in the micromanipulation group. And I did my own research, or we did our own research, and I had my own little sub project. I learned to code MATLAB, which was a big deal for me because I had not picked up any sort of programming, and I'm now deciding between grad schools, and programming is just going to be a fact of life moving forward. It was very cool. It was all funded at New Paltz, so I stayed on campus, and I got paid as well as being able to do research. I eventually presented my findings at an optics conference in Washington, D.C. And now I have a poster that's hanging up in the science hall for public viewing.
Sounds so much cooler when you all say it. It's the great thing about having you here.
Stacy, did you want to mention the AC squared research opportunities? Or actually, Catherine, you've done them too.
Well, I could say, I mean, one student who went on to graduate school at Syracuse University in a master's program was very involved with AC squared and talks about that as being, this was Rui Gomez, of course, talks about that as being a really significant part. He worked with me setting up a quantum mechanics experiment before I was regularly teaching them. And so that was a big part of his application and his future work.
Can you explain what AC squared means?
Yeah, Stacy.
Yeah, I was just about to jump in there. Yeah, so the AC squared program, it stands for AMP and C-STEP community, and it's a program that has existed on the campus since the 1980s. That's goal is to increase the number of underrepresented minority and economically disadvantaged students who graduate successfully with degrees in STEM. So if you have some interest in knowing more about that program, there is a session. Unfortunately, I don't remember when it's happening. I think it might be next week, where you can hear from the director and the coordinator of the AC squared program to see if you are eligible and if you are interested. But that program hosts a summer research program every summer. Good thought, Catherine. Thank you.
Other questions? Anything about great? Good.
There's a question about the honors program. Cole is in the honors program, so maybe Cole can answer that one. Do we have a different curriculum from the rest of our peers?
Right. So with the honors program, if you're accepted into it your freshman year, what it amounts to is essentially 4 honors like seminar courses. And these can often double dip and fulfill general education requirements as well. So essentially it's taking 4 extra GE seminars. They're not taught at like the traditional like GE level. They're more of like advanced discussions, and it is truly seminar based. I've really valued them. You learn a lot. There's also some like honors like sections of GE labs. So I know that there was like an honors chem lab that you could take, and that would count towards one of your seminars. And then I guess the other big thing with the honors program is that you have to do a thesis. I know that with the physics department, you have to do a senior project. You can often do a lot of overlap. I know that I'm doing similar work for both my thesis and the senior project right now. So there's not too much that's different. Again, just taking a few extra classes, but you can often double dip with the curriculum you already need to take.
I could take the work study question.
Okay.
So the question was, are there any astronomy or physics related opportunities for work study on campus? And that's an excellent question. And the answer is yes, there are a few different forms of opportunities. One is Dr. Eric Myers often hires a student to help with the introductory physics lab setup because it's pretty time intensive and labor intensive. And so students get to learn about what goes into setting up the physics labs and get paid for that. Also, we have peer tutors and student learning assistants in some of our classes. And so being a peer tutor could be a work study opportunity, or working in a class. I have an assistant in optics lab right now. And so that's a paid position involved with helping students in lab and prepping for the lab.
Right, so work study, the title work study is a financial aid type of employment. There are other opportunities for students to be employed on campus that are not through work study. And in fact, I know Cole, you're working with the Center for Student Success, correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell the students a little bit about what you do for that?
Right, so I work as a peer subject tutor through the Center for Student Success. It is what it sounds like. I tutor classes. I've tutored a variety of things, ranging from Physics 1, Calc 1 and 2, as well as some general chemistry classes. That's kind of the gist of what I do in the position. There are other positions for the CSS. Some people work as like writing consultants, and they are looking for like STEM major writing consultants as well. It's just a new perspective on it. And then there's also, they keep changing the name of the position. I think it's like a peer advisor, where they can help you like plan out your schedule. So there's a variety of different positions through the CSS.
Right, and that are related to the sciences. David, have you worked for Raj in giving presentations for money? Has he hired you
Yes.
to do that?
I'm not sure if it counts under the work study
No,
designation.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
but-
but once you take the planetarium operations class, in normal pre-COVID times, there are bi-weekly shows, one every other Thursday, and ideally a student presenter does every single show. Raj can do them if no one's available, but he wants students to do them and he will pay you to do them. They're really lots of fun where basically for 45 minutes you have an audience of 35 to 40 people from the general public, all ages. You prep a show, you say, here's some cool constellations, here's some stories related to them. I want to tell you about Betelgeuse, this really cool star. I want to tell you about some current events in astronomy. And if you're interested in any sort of science outreach or science communication, it's really a great thing. I've been doing it since May of 2018. So, I've really, really enjoyed it. And there's also other connections. Occasionally, there's been a program that also fell out due to COVID where middle schools and high schools would come to campus, the Science and Technology Entry Program. I've gotten the physics club involved with that, but we would teach them physics or we would teach them astronomy and we'd get compensated for those as well.
Thanks, David. Other questions?
You could also ask the students general questions about what it's like to be a student here. It doesn't have to be specific to physics or astronomy as well.
There is one thing I would like to say before people start leaving. So if you should decide to come to New Paltz, what I want to let you know is that we're allowing freshman students to register earlier than we have done in the past. So actually registration will start sometime in May. In previous years, it started quite a bit later than that for freshmen. Now, one of the things that's going to be really critical for science majors is their math placement. And so students who come to New Paltz take a math placement exam called ALEKS, A-L-E-K-S, online, and that will determine your placement. So one thing that you should think about is taking the math placement exam as early as you feel comfortable doing it. I think once you make a deposit, you are able, within a short period of time, to do that. Now, the thing about the ALEKS math placement is that if you take it early enough, you are able to repeat it up to 2 more times. And the software will work with you on the material that you maybe didn't do so well on in between. So one advantage to doing it is early is that it will help your registration process early. The other advantage is that if it doesn't come out quite the way you were hoping, you have some opportunity to, to improve your score.
So there was a question, will there be any differences in the curriculum and activities because of COVID? So the campus is officially saying that they are planning to do everything in person in the fall. Nobody can predict whether that will change, if things will get really bad. We, for the last year, each individual faculty member has really adjusted their classes as they have seen fit, but we have still been offering the same classes that we would have been offering otherwise. So some of it is kind of a hybrid online. As you saw, Dr. Hearn's students in the labs are still coming to work in the labs. my students are still learning at the observatory, but some of it is online. And then you heard from the students that the clubs have been a little bit hard to keep going. But otherwise nothing has, well, and the planetarium shows are canceled. They're virtual, I should say, not canceled, but the curriculum is the same. And supposedly we're going to be in person again in the fall.
Cole, do you know anything about when students typically hear back from the honors program?
I don't.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Right. Sorry, Kimberly.
Sorry, we don't know that.
Well, so okay, I'm not honors, but I have heard this. Isn't there a relatively, like, don't people get in not honors and then reapply to the honors program and getting kind of easier, or am I just saying words?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, I feel like I heard this when I was applying. I was not ready to get into honors, but honors students were telling me, oh yeah, you can just apply later and get in later instead of starting out in honors, and it's basically the same. Now
That is true.
That's true. Okay, so it's not just old info.
Yeah, I wanted to just highlight another thing that SPS, the Society of Physics students, did this semester, which was y'all had an alumni panel and had 5 alum between like 2 years ago to 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, actually. No, to 30 years ago or 20. Anyway, range of alums, mostly more recent alums, and it was pretty great to hear like what they're doing. And I like to highlight that my student who did not go to graduate study, but went into optics applications engineering is now making more money than everybody else. So I think that's, I mean, it's an important thing to know, like you can actually make money if you don't have to go to grad school.
Yes, you will make more money if you don't go to grad school.
Most likely.
Any more questions? Don't be shy. You guys are asking great questions, things that we forgot to talk about.
I mean, we officially end at 5:30, I think.
It's true. So it is a good time to end, but making a last call.
I'm not saying we can't stick around for a few minutes, just want to let people, like, if they have other things to do and stuff, I want to have an official ending.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure to see your names anyway, and to take your questions. I really want to big thank you to Cole and David. You've been great and perfect choice for the kinds of questions that we got. Thank you so much. And I hope that those of you who find that you have questions later on will reach out to us. As Professor Bartholomew, yep, I'm going to do the same thing and put my contact email in.
And of course, you can find us from the physics and astronomy department page, but if you want to just grab our contacts. Great, it's been great to see everybody. Sorry, Amy.
I was just saying thank you back to Kimberly. Thanks for coming. Stacy, are you ready for me to end the recording?
I guess I am.
All right. Thank you all.
Good evening, everyone.